Starting in 490 BC, the all-conquering Persians invaded Greece. At the battles of Marathon and Salamis, the invading forces were defeated, but Persia's influence lingered long after its armies retreated. Persian money, meddling, and diplomacy fomented trouble between the independent Greek city-states. Weakened and divided, Greece dreamed of revenge, a war of reprisal on the eternal Persian foe. Philip II became the Macedonian king in 359 BC. A strong ruler, he created a well-trained army and expanded his kingdom in all directions. In 338 BC, he defeated the Greek Confederation at Chaeronea and proclaimed himself general-in-chief of the Greeks for the long-sought-after war of revenge against Persia. Assassinated in 336 BC, Philip was succeeded by his 20-year-old son, now Alexander III of Macedonia, soon to be known as Alexander the Great. Acclaimed king, Alexander moved quickly to secure his power, brutally crushing revolts, securing his rear lines, and destroying Thebes, a leading Greek city. Then, leaving half his army to protect the secured Macedonian homeland, Alexander led the rest and his Greek Confederation troops onward into Asia Minor to continue the war against Persia declared by his father. Ancient authors asserted that Alexander was like a force of nature. He certainly entered Asia in a spectacular manner, emulating the fabled Greek heroes, joyfully splashing ashore at the site of mythical Troy and claiming the armor of legendary Achilles. By May 334 BC, the local Persian governors assembled a formidable army at the Granicus River, but Alexander swept them aside and pushed into Asia, always taking care to secure the seacoast and major ports along his march. The powerful Persian navy could threaten Macedonian communications until Alexander captured their bases. By late 333 BC, Persian Emperor Darius III amassed a powerful army, then moved on the swiftly advancing Macedonians, who were marching south from Asia Minor. Alexander attacked the Persians at Issus, where, as usual, he personally led his cavalry in repeated fierce charges on the Persians. Alexander closed within a few yards of Darius, who fled in his golden chariot, along with his dispirited Persian host. Following Issus, Alexander continued along the coast, marching to the Phoenician seaport of Tyre, a major Persian navy base. An island fortress, Tyre was a formidable challenge. After resisting for 7 months, the city was finally stormed in August 332 BC by picked Macedonian troops who used a laboriously constructed mole as a springboard for their final brutish assault. Alexander entered Egypt in late 332 BC, completing his conquest of the Persian sea bases and finishing off the famed Persian navy. Alexander paused long enough to be declared a god by Egyptian priests and to found the great city of Alexandria. Alexander marched northeast to meet the Persians in Mesopotamia. In October 331 BC, the Macedonians found the huge Persian army awaiting them on the leveled and prepared plain of Gaugamela. Although heavily outnumbered and having his left flank turned, Alexander, as at Issus, once again personally charged directly at Darius. Darius again fled, leaving his vast army to disintegrate without him. During his desperate flight into the desert, the reign of Darius III ended in assassination by treacherous courtiers. His empire fell into the hands of Alexander, who occupied the heart of the old Persian Empire. In 330 BC, during a drunken celebration, Alexander destroyed Persepolis, the Persian capital, as revenge for the burning of Athens 150 years before. For the next 3 years, Alexander moved east, conducting a bewildering series of marches and countermarches, stamping out the last vestiges of the old rule, and pacifying nomadic horsemen and hill tribes to complete his Persian conquests. Alexander then led his army into semi-legendary lands and then, in late 327 B.C., marched beyond Greek maps into uncharted India. In May 326 B.C., he defeated the Indians in a brutal battle at the Hydaspes River. In July of the same year, Alexander's homesick army mutinied. Alexander gave in to his veterans' demands, and the great conquering army, after much hardship, returned to Mesopotamia 2 years later. On his return, to promote civic unity among the many peoples he ruled, Alexander held a grand wedding between 10,000 of his soldiers and their Asian brides. In 323 B.C., Alexander began organizing a new army and plotting further conquests. Shortly after, he died of fever in Babylon. He was aged of only 33 years.